You had an awesome weekend. Back at it here on the Jeff Cameron Show. Over at practice this morning. Man, we're getting down to the nitty gritty, baby. Full pads tomorrow. Shells again today, but getting a lot of action. That's a good thing. I'm Jeff. That's Tom. On Twitter, it's at J Cameron Show. Thanks to all of you listening on 93.3 Real Talk Radio. Driving about town. Be careful out there. A little wet as I came in. For those of you that are watching on Warchant TV, thank you as well. And those in the Heisen Legal Law Firm chat room. Heisen Legal Law Firm, dedicated to representing injured clients statewide. If you've been in an accident, call Heisen Legal Law Firm, 813-803-0733 for a free consultation. No cost to you unless they win. Your interests come first with Heisen Legal Law Firm, the name you can trust for justice. That number, 813-803-0733. You can also visit the website, HeisenLegalLawFirm.com. Heisen Legal Law Firm, your advocate in times of need, offices Tampa. Yeah, so this morning, got out there, Tom. First of all, good day to you, sir. How are you? That was loud.
Oh, I see that we're still singing the Bob O'Reilly over here. That's no problem.
Yeah, Roger Daltrey's still going. Now I'm better. Oops.
Yeah, so I'm fine. It seems like you have a perfect attendance record so far with practice.
I do.
You are 5 for 5. That's very impressive.
5 for 5, haven't missed a single practice, and I'm really, it's interesting. Tom Block and I had a conversation the other day at practice. I think it was Sunday, yesterday, maybe. Yeah. So we were talking about they all bleed together now. Tom, just going to one practice after the other. But we were talking about the level of intrigue, and it's weird. I don't know. You get a year removed from camp, and where we were a season ago. But there were a lot of knowns in the season ago. There were a lot of knowns. So camp maybe didn't necessarily prove to be as interesting, if I can say that, because I think we realized what we had. I mean, it took like 2 seconds to take a look at Keon Coleman and know that you had a stud. And you had seen him at Michigan State, too, so you knew what he was. And then they had so many people back that you already knew a lot about. Everybody knew Jordan, and you kind of just knew that they were going to be good, really, really good. And there was even a chance, and that was, I think, pretty much illustrated with all of our preseason predictions. A lot of people either had 10-2, 11-1, 12-0. I don't think anybody had worse than that. So everybody kind of had a sense. And yet, this camp, there are a lot of unknowns. There are a lot of answers, a lot of interesting, intriguing answers, a lot of opportunities for talented players to rise up and fill those roles vacated by the knowns from a year ago. But you don't know for sure how that's going to go. We're all here to give our opinion about that and what we think is possible based on the evidence we have, based on these practices that we're witnessing. I will tell you that I think, if I'm talking about the 5 days that I've been out there, I think they're going to be a good football team. That part is seemingly a given. I think they're going to be a good football team. How good will depend on some of these guys that have to be counted on for the first time, and that's really kind of been the talking point. I'll tell you this. All of these discussions begin with DJ. Every one of these discussions will begin with the quarterback, and I've really liked what I've seen so far from him in camp in general. I've really liked what I've seen from him. I hesitate to get into too many details. We're always got to be careful here, but I just think he's played well in camp.
That's an important note. You're not afraid to criticize QB1, as we well know with the previous quarterback who's been our starter for 2 full seasons, and then he was entering 2021. We weren't sure who the starter was going to be. But you weren't afraid to criticize Jordan Travis when the world wanted one thing or the other. So I think you would criticize DJU or sound the alarm bell if there was an issue, because, again, you were high on what Brock Glenn had done early in last week, day one of camp. But to hear that Monday you're coming out the box saying you like what DJU has done, that tells me, I infer that the next 4 practices you've attended, he's been rock solid. He's been consistent.
Yeah, and it's funny because – maybe I overstated, or I don't know about overstated. He was that first day, Brock was awesome. I mean, that was unequivocally true. But I thought I threw the caveat out there numerous times that maybe that didn't signify anything. Maybe it's just one day. but a lot of people took that to mean that I thought he was going to win the job or something. I just presented that the possibility would be that he played really well this camp, and what would that mean for DJ? And, I still think it's a good thing if that happens. Meaning it's a good thing if Brock has great days and is able to stack them together. I think they're going to need him at some point, and it would seem to me he may be the future starter. So you want your other quarterbacks to play well. But you're right, Tom. I think it's also safe to say that starting about practice number 2, the depth chart looks right. Starting about practice number 2, the depth chart looks right. And I think the other thing, the way that I would assess DJ so far is I like that he appears to be, well, first of all, he's very comfortable. And he's comfortable enough that, if he makes a mistake, you'll see him kind of casually walk over and talk to Mike about it. Those two have had some really interesting moments, just kind of watching a coach talk with a player, very analytical. Also, if we're just going to get into the physical, he threw some balls today that were simply magnificent throws. Just, there's no other way to describe it. I won't describe the route. They get all up in arms if you do. But he made all the throws today. We already know that he has the big arm. Everybody knows he's got a big, big arm. So it doesn't surprise anybody ever if they see a video or hear about a deep ball being completed, because he's got that capability. Always has had that. When you're that big, that strong, and it just looks like a flick of the wrist, he really does some things that takes a lot of talent and, some things that you can't teach. So that part of it's good. But recognizing where to go with the football, processing quickly, and then making accurate throws to guys that are maybe covered, he's really given his receivers opportunities. And there were some throws today, again, that if he plays like that, he's going to be a guy that's going to be a problem for a lot of defenses. I don't know that you can expect that every day, every Saturday, because there were NFL throws on display today, Tom, big-time NFL throws that you went, ooh, okay, well, that'll work. That'll work. So I was excited for him, and I do like hearing from the players and the coaches that DJ, when we were at the ACC kickoff, I asked specifically Mike Norvell question about DJ, but I also heard Mike asked by lots of people questions about DJ. And one of the things that he kept pointing to was that he's been very impressed with the maturity and the way that he's come in and really sought to earn it, to win over teammates, that no assumptions were made on his behalf. I mean, I think it's safe to say, if you're a guy who's played as much college football as he has and started as many games as he has, that when you enter your name into the transfer portal and you're deciding which school you're going to go to, you're assuming you're going there to start. You're assuming you're going there that the school that's interested in you, the school that reaches out and contacts you, is interested in you coming in, not to be a backup, but to be a starter. But I like hearing that he didn't approach it that way. He didn't approach it from the standpoint of, well, I'm going to be the starter. He approached it from the standpoint of, I got to get in there, mix it up, fight for my position, and prove to the guys that I'm the right guy. So you can see that work ethic is in place. He's very meticulous, and I've been impressed. I've been impressed with him. It's going to, from now until the first game, it's going to be hard to kind of quell those moments of excitement and enthusiasm, because once a practice, there's a player or a player that you just go, oh, man, that's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see how they use him, or this guy's really coming along. And after a while, people just get tired of hearing that. They're like, we got to play a game here at some point. And true, they'll scrimmage soon enough. Tomorrow, I think, marks certainly a shift where we go into full pads and you'll get a chance. I think full pads are tomorrow. The rules have changed over the years. I never really know. Is it 5 days, 2 with shells? Is it 3 with shells? And just is the 2 with just helmets and then shells, and then you can go full pad? What day is? It's changed a lot over the years, but I think it's tomorrow that they go full pads. The intensity has been ratcheted up every day that's gone by. Mike is, as every coach probably would be at this time, knowing that you got that early game. You're less than 26 days away from the start of college football for the team. Time is of the essence. He is riding these guys now about the details, about the intensity, the focus, the need to rep it right over and over and over again. He's on these guys. There's not a beat missed, and that's exciting. It's fun to watch. It's fun to take in. I think that Florida State's a good football team with a chance to be a great football team, and there are a lot of guys that are fighting like hell to be a big reason for that. And that intensity and that competition, for me as a football fan, beyond just being a Nole, just being a football fan, there's nothing better than watching guys who are this athletic, this big, this strong, this fast, fighting for every scrap, for every rep, for every opportunity. It's really cool to watch. Those are your healthy programs.
I've got to have a follow-up about DJ. Just, obviously today, NFL throws. That's what I take away from a lot of the NFL throws left and right. That's great. And he does have that arm. And like I said in spring when I saw him, he unlocks different parts of the map, the battle map, the battleground. It's just, you shouldn't be able to be rolling towards your right and you stop on the numbers near one sideline at, say, the 40 or the 50-yard line and complete a pass outside the numbers on a rope inside the 10 on the other sideline. Like, if you actually draw out how many yards, air yards, you would have to be it's 60, 70 yards, 80 yards worth of a throw, and he's able to throw it on a dime. So that's extremely impressive, and that to me is where it gets really fun with the speed that Florida State has. But my question, without seeing practice, and what I really want to know, is about the consistency and the accuracy. Have you seen more of that, or have there been misses that have been characteristic of his time in other places? I don't think that's giving away trade secrets, because the MO on him is big-time throws, NFL throws. He makes them look routine, but then every once in a while there's a blip where you go, well, what the hell was he throwing there? That guy was open.
I believe that's part of who he is, right? He's probably always going to have that. It's hard to imagine that you suddenly find a ratchet up level of accuracy that doesn't belie the other 4 years that we've seen him, right? But then again, it's a different system, and Mike is a quarterback-friendly play caller, and I think there is a chance that you see the best brand of DJ led football that you've ever seen. And I don't know why that wouldn't be, right? He's another year wiser. He's another year seasoned and experienced, and he's coming into a really good system. And I think they're going to run the ball. I think the other part of this, Tom, and listen, he's had some, he hasn't had those perfect days. He hasn't had the day where you don't see one of those throws, but more often than not, he's spent the bulk of practices being very accurate. He's been very good. I really love to, this is redundant. I really love it when he gets time in the pocket and something opens up downfield, because it is just a majestic thing of beauty to watch that ball come out of his hands, how far he can throw the football with deft touch. That's the part of it, right? There are guys that can throw the ball 50, 60, 70 yards, and you'll see, some people struggle to do that, but others, it looks really easy. But can you do it accurately? Can you lay it in there and hit a guy on the run and let him walk into the end zone, as opposed to having to fight back for it and, hope to get a penalty because it's short or something like that, or having to leap up over a defensive back? You see more of those kinds of beautiful leading throws, guys just walk underneath it when he's out there. It's just a simple, beautiful flick of the wrist with a deft touch that's enjoyable to watch. I thought it was interesting today, and it's been this way, and I can only imagine it's going to continue down this path, especially when they put all the pads on. But they really are hell-bent on being able to run the football. And you knew that when they went out and got what they got. This running back room is absolutely loaded. That Coach Johnson spoke today, Yak spoke today after practice, and he all but said it. Like, we look forward to establishing the run. We've got some horses, we got backs for whatever you want, and we got a big offensive line. He's right. They do have a really big offensive line with some real talent. Like, Richie Leonard is a talented player, Tom. I keep saying it over and over again. He really is. He's a big dude, kind of built different. You wouldn't expect him to be as athletic as he is at that size. They're gonna cause some problems there. I do think they're gonna run the ball. I learned my lesson from a year ago I worried about him in pass pro. That didn't turn out to be too big a problem. I thought they would be much better running the ball. That did turn out to be a problem. But the evidence seems to suggest that they're trying to remedy that and make sure they can run the ball, and they kind of want that to be their identity. I really do believe.
It's funny. Every time you talk about Richie Leonard, I can hear it in your voice. And you did bring it up after I went to the 2-cam here to make the point. But you're just wowed at how athletic he is for the size. You're like, man, he doesn't look like – it's like the guy that's in the pickup game that you think has no chance. He should be picked last. Why is this guy consistently, first or second pick? Look at him. Just look at him. And then he operates in the post. And then he extends out and he hits a 3 and another 3. And you're like, oh, well, I see why he's always the first or the second draft pick. Appearance. It's burn after reading. Appearances can be deceptive.
That's a wonderful
That's you and Richie Leonard.
Every time I see him, I'm like, how in the world can you move that easily at that size? It is. It's nuts. Yeah, I had a buddy named Joey. I have a buddy named Joey who's a monster of a man. And every time we play anything that requires a lot of athleticism, you underrate him, and then you're like, man, he's a freak of an athlete for a dude this size. It's crazy. Yeah, Richie strikes me as that. I was talking with Aslan today at practice. We were watching the offensive line, and we were watching some of the more intense drills and getting after it. And I was just thinking, you kind of got to pinch yourself. It was only 2 years ago where you're like, well, maybe they'll get by. This is going to be an average bunch at best. Like that's where you were.
Oh, I could speak to this. I can speak to this. Charting every one of those plays for however many camps, you'd have maybe like 4 dudes you felt really good about, and then 1 or 2 that you're thinking, we wouldn't fall apart if they come in. Like there were years where if the one offensive lineman was not available, we're done. Like,
oh yeah,
and the whole thing collapses. The last couple of years, it's gotten better, but you don't go 7 down the line or 8 down the line and think, well, this is going to be a battle. For the defensive line, that started last year, but for the O-line, there was really only a couple of guys that you'd pay to see, for the price of admission. And it looks like you legitimately might be cultivating now, at least from the outside, and hearing what you guys are talking about. 6 guys, 7 guys. Maybe you are getting to that magic number that they like.
Well, I think you consider Early and Otto and Keandre Jones and Richie and Ferguson and obviously Darius, Robert Scott. Let's knock on wood with Robert Scott. I say it every time. I really am rooting for the young man. In due time, Tom, I think maybe my assessment early on, just my opinion, I had hoped maybe coming into this camp that I thought there was a chance Lucas Simmons would be close to ready. I'm not so sure that's the case. I'm not down on him. I just, you got other guys I think that are a little further along is all I'm saying.
Is Jalen Early one of those in your opinion?
I think they like Early. Yeah, I think so. I think
they always talk about him, so.
Yeah, they like
there's a reason.
Yeah. Well, no, they like him. He's in that group. They've got. My point is, and Armella is in that group. They got Tom. There are, and I'm not talking about right tackle. I'm just talking about guys that you could go to, and you wouldn't see this thing devolve into a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
You can mix and match dudes, and I think if we're talking about that, if we're talking about sliding the guy here, putting the right guard over left guard, and then moving somebody out to tackle if you had to, just moving guys around wise, I kind of feel like I'm thinking about it in my head right now. I definitely think you got 8 guys you feel good about. Total. I think that's accurate. I think you got about 8 guys you feel good about.
Well, you can do a lot with that. You can do a lot. I mean, again, they seem to embrace the idea of rotation more than most coaching staffs. And I know that you agree that you kind of want your 5, and your 5 are your 5. But they're of the mind, at least at a couple of positions over the years, right guard most recently last season, that, hey, I might want to get 35 snaps out of you instead of 60. And if you're working with 7 or 8, that could help in that regard if they do want to rotate. And if they ever want to, knock on wood, ever want to go unbalanced and run that 6th guy out there, it's out there in Mike's past. I would love to see that, especially if they're trying to impose their will on the ground.
It's going to be fun to watch them effort to run. I love that identity. I've talked about it before. I know how mad they were a year ago. It was frustrating to watch, not being able to run the ball consistently well. upset the apple cart, really kind of made Florida State somewhat predictable. It's a testament to their players and coaches that they were able to work around that weakness and still go 13-0. It's Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio. Warchant TV continues in a moment.
You probably already know that Pinch a Penny Pools and Spas is your one-stop destination for all pool maintenance needs, offering everything you need from chemicals, cleaners, vacuums, nets, and more. But
accelerate your feet through the board. Now that pattern shit, accelerate. Set.
Step two, defense, get on your feet. Bend your knees and step two,
Drive. Accelerate through. Strike through. Set. Good, Darius. Accelerate.
Middle weight. Get your middle weight on your opposite foot.
Strike. Set.
You can't be laid off the ball in a drill that goes on the whistle.
Right foot into the board. Short that step. Look at it. Take a knee. You don't have to get enough on the field. You just want that foot, man. You don't have to get to the middle of it. 6-inch step. Here you go, line and right.
Good, JB.
Tight step right here. Set. Accelerate it out. Set.
That's not bad time.
Drop your hands. You're going to just squeeze those elbows. Squeeze into your body. Set.
Too slow, James time.
That's my step.
Good, Mo. Everybody do it like Mo. Do it like Mo. You'll be all right.
Best workout of exercise. Make sure you're getting the most out of each and every workout. Orange Theory Fitness, location Midtown Tallahassee and Village Square Boulevard.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
By the way, tonight, guys, I will be joining my good buddy, Irashfel, at 7 o'clock for Monday Smash. We're going old school, the OGs. Me and Ira, Monday Smash tonight. Really looking forward to it. It's fun when you got football to talk about. Do you realize, Tom, this Thursday we have a football game, NFL game, the Thursday. this Thursday marking the start of a football game being played in which pads are being worn and people are being hit. I know it doesn't count, but that is the first Thursday that football will be played on, and it will continue to be played on every Thursday from that point forward, from now until February. There's a football game on television starting this Thursday from Thursday through Thursdays in February.
Thank you. I needed that. I think we all needed that. Thank you very much. That's about the most comforting thing I've heard in some time. All right. Kicking ass.
It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. I got up this morning and I was just kind of perusing stuff before making my way to football practice. Then I was kind of catching up on some things that I wanted to catch up on music-wise, and I was taking the dogs for a walk. You called. We talked while I was on the walk with the dogs, and then right when we hung up, I looked over and I was like, oh, there's a football game Thursday. That's right. And then I went, wait a minute. And then I scrolled ahead, and I was smiling ear to ear as I grabbed my keys to go to practice. I went, there's football on every Thursday from now until February. How about this week? Giving us that gift, right? Marcus, thanks for the contribution. What is the status of the football wins? I thought I felt them, but the rain has thrown me off. Also, I'm not the authority on them. Love y'all. Thank you, Marcus. You're right. I am the authority on football wins. Well, I'll let you know something today, Marcus. I was up at Hauser. So for those that don't know, when we go to practice, we come through the walkway there, the main walkway there, under the arch. Once we get settled behind left field there, now that's where they have us parking. And right in between Dick Hauser and the practice fields, there's this little crosswalk, this little sidewalk. I walked through that, turned the corner, said good morning to all who were there as I entered the premises, and walked into the indoor practice facility as they cranked the Warchant. And we watch guys get stretched and getting ready to go. And then they break out and do these various drills and things like that. I watched that. About right around the fourth period, it's time to take it on upstairs, up to Hauser. And I move around depending on the drill that I want to see. Now, by the way, Tom, one of the things that's great, and you'll see this when you come down here shortly, because all of that construction's being done, they don't have that far practice field to hide now. So we're getting everything up close and personal. You can see everything like just right there. There's no hiding away from us in the media.
I often rooted for bad weather days for practice, especially when it was hot out, because you'd get inside the IPF and that was more reasonable. Even if it was muggy in there, it was better than standing outside in the heat. But also because you could get up closer just to have a sense of the impact, the speed, the nuances, the depth of a play, alignment, all those things. It was great when there was bad weather because you could go in there and just get a much closer assessment. Mm-hmm. So to hear you say that, well, you don't need bad weather to get that kind of close assessment, that's nice, because they routinely were on the far field. Love the access, not complaining, just saying this sounds a hell of a lot better.
You're up close and personal. So I slide. So when you go into Hauser to watch, you get up to the third level there, and you can be the very first, slot where you can overlook the field. Then there's the second and the third, where you go all the way down the third baseline, all the way down to the end, and then you're almost practically right by where the indoor practice facility is. A lot of times, if I'm just wanting to watch lines of scrimmage, I go way down to the far right side because I don't necessarily care early on about maybe red zone completions or whatever. I'm looking for the trenches. And I say all of this very long-winded way, Marcus, to answer the question, because I take it very seriously. I went to that third slot. It was a little overcast, and it was just me all by my lonesome. And I loved it. I didn't have to hear any yammering on from people, no chit-chat nonsense. It's just me and football and my observations. It was glorious. And as I sat there, a slight breeze washed over my shoulder, touched my neck, rolled down the left arm and made its way on into Hauser. I thought, well, that was pleasant. But let's not get carried away. Let's continue to watch football. And then a second and steady breeze hit me again. And I said, I hear you, football wins, and I feel you too. And I love you. I love you very much. And I've missed you. Please, you're allowed to come back sooner than any of us could ever have imagined. We would welcome you here in July. We really would. It was fleeting. I felt like it was the football wins way of telling me soon. Soon, Mr. Cameron, we will wash over you on the regular. Soon you will be in Ireland where there are perpetual football wins. And that is true too. Whatever the message, I welcomed it. And it was the very first of its kind since I've been going out to practice these last 5. It was fleeting too. I don't want to give the impression that it was omnipresent. It was very, very, it was just meant for me in that moment by my lonesome for about a good 20 seconds, Tom, and then it was gone.
Well, I've got a revelation for you. You're welcome. That was me. I sent it from here. Now, the thing is, I sent you an hour's worth of football wins, but they just get destroyed. So only a few moments, can make the trip all the way down nearly 1,500 miles and then into Tallahassee over the land. But that was a gift from the Rockaways. It was a whisper up here because they occur all the time. But I figured if I time this right, I think it was yesterday around 3:00 in the afternoon. If I send these wins right now, I think it'll be around period 4, period 5. This is for Jeff. You're welcome.
It needs to be known. I want to make it abundantly clear. I understand wherever you are listening to this, especially if you're in the state of Florida, you say, it can't be. I don't buy it. You're a liar. You're lying to my face, Jeff Cameron, and I don't appreciate it. I'm just telling you what happened to me this morning for one little pocket in time. It's not like I left that area and thought, boy, these football wins are incredible. No. Little moment in time. It was maybe Tom's gift. I don't know, but it happened, and you can deny it if you'd like to, but I refuse to. I'm letting you know I was touched by a football win this morning, fleeting as it were. It could have been a pending storm. I don't engage in magical thinking. I'm a realist. I'm pragmatic. I get it. I'm just telling you what happened. It happened for a very brief moment in time, and it was GD glorious. It gave me a glimpse of what could be, admittedly, a glimpse of what could be, I don't know, 2.5 months from now.
That's why I send you an hour and you get a moment's worth of win. They die down. But I knew it just something
you
might.
You an hour and I got less than 3 seconds, but it happened.
Yep.
It happened. We'll try that again tomorrow. I'll be at practice again tomorrow, right around the 4th or 5th period. I'll be in that same archway. Please send it along, and I'll smile, and I'll say, thanks, Tom Lang. Thank you so much for those wins from Rockaway. I'll greatly appreciate it.
Yeah.
The players, I don't think, felt that they were directly under the sun doing battle. They didn't get affected by it at all.
This will be around, I would say, like 9:35, 9:40. I can time that out. And then around that time, I'll just put my hand up in the sky. I'll be big ups, brother.
Man, I did give the update about football on Thursday, and that we've got football with us from now until February on Thursday, every Thursday. And that does allow one to dream. It does allow you to begin to place yourself in situations that are much more comfortable than these, right? Where it's, got out of my car to walk into the studio after driving from practice. There were no football wins whatsoever. When I got out of the car, I said what I usually say in Florida, late in July, anytime I get out of my car. I say things I cannot say on these radio airwaves, which is exactly what I said as I opened the door and went, come on, man. And then I just walked into the studio. That's just so you know, I'm not delusional. That was just a fleeting moment, but a nice one. Chef Cameron Show 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Your local news now.
A man is behind bars for his connection to a shooting that left one person hurt earlier this month. According to the Leon County Sheriff's Office, Brian Lamar Dickey, 46 years old, is facing charges for a shooting that happened on July 17th. The victim was taken to the hospital and is in stable condition. The shooting happened along Bluntstown and Park Lawn Streets. He was arrested by U.S. Marshals Wednesday while in the Leon County Detention Facility on 2 unrelated counts of failure to report as a sex offender. Back-to-school shopping season is in full swing across Florida. Starting today, families can buy several back-to-school items tax-free. This includes clothing, shoes, and book bags costing $100 or less, school supplies like pens, pencils, notebooks, and other items that cost $50 or less, and laptops costing $1,500 or less. It is projected to save shoppers a little more than $97 million. This is Rachel Lene with your Real Talk 93.3 Local News Update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MacklemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. Storms likely this afternoon. Otherwise, sunshine mixed with clouds at times. Daytime highs approaching 92. North winds around 5 miles per hour. Chance of thunderstorms tonight, 75. Thunderstorms likely tomorrow. High temperatures reach up to 94. A blend of clouds and sun. This report is brought to you by The Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Right now, it's 89 degrees.
Every journey starts with a first step, a daring step. But what they don't say about first steps is that you have to keep going, taking step after step, and eventually you take a big leap, accomplishing more than you ever thought possible. After 57 years, Tallahassee Community College is soaring even higher, and we're now officially Tallahassee State College. We invite you to take a step and visit Tallahassee State College. Learn more at tsc.fl.edu.
There is no Bigfoot, Eddie. Would you stop with that nonsense?
There's Bigfoot, Jeff.
I wish there were. By the way, I don't want you to point to me as the guy that takes all the fun out of the room. I wish there was the Loch Ness Monster. I wish there was the Bigfoot. I wish there was the Chupacabra. All the things.
They're all mythical except for the Bigfoot. The Sasquatch.
The Bigfoot?
The Bigfoot. There's big feet. There's lots of them.
So like different, breeds, like different kinds.
There's like, families. There's different families. And,
so if they're in the snow, you call them a Sasquatch.
Or the Yeti. Right,
Yep,
and then here in Florida, that's a skunk ape, and but
never heard that one. By the way, why do you think it's real? We would have found them by now.
They're the hide and seek champions of the world. Nobody finds the Bigfoot.
I think you believe in Bigfoot.
I do believe in Bigfoot.
You don't believe.
I believe in Bigfoot.
Don't tell anybody you believe in Bigfoot.
I would go look for Bigfoot, but he scares me.
Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
If they're able to run the ball the way that I think they're certainly trying to establish early in camp, and I think that's a mindset as well. I think they're trying to create that mindset. There was a level of intensity today in the trenches that was enjoyable to watch. I like to see those matchups. There's a lot of guys who play very violently. Tom, you said it before. We talked a little bit about people we can rely on. We were talking about the offensive line, but I'm also doing that same sort of deep dive every practice right now on the defensive line. I think a lot of people will be happy to hear a couple of observations here. One is that Uiagalelei plays violently. He's got an anger and a heavy hand. He's got a heavy hand, and it's enjoyable to watch. He's nasty.
That's good to hear because if you're a combo defensive lineman and he's got the weight to play inside, and I'm sure they're cross training him. You don't have to give away stuff that you've seen in practice, but it's no secret that they don't know which way they want to go. They're thinking maybe inside for him. But if you're an end that can play D tackle, sometimes it means you don't have the violence to play D tackle. So I like hearing the heavy hand thing. That's a nice descriptor.
Yeah, I think he plays violently, and that's enjoyable. And the other observation right now, as we try to look, for signs of who's going to be the 2 and the 3 and the different guys getting reps past the starters. We all know what Farmer is. We all know what Darrell Jackson can be and should be. We all know old batted balls Peyton is going to have himself a year, we would suspect. Marvin Jones Jr., we're hoping, is one of those guys, again, that falls in the category of potentially could be great, potentially could be all ACC, if not better. Haven't had to see him do that before. He hasn't been able to live up to that just yet, but maybe this is his year. But beyond that, where you start going is, okay, well, who else can we depend on in there? Because that group of 4 can only do so much. They got to have opportunities to rotate. And Lord knows our coaching staff loves to rotate. They'll rotate the hell out of some people, even when you think that it's maybe a little heavy-handed on that rotation. But they brought in Grady Kelly. And I think at this time last year, Tom, we were already talking about Braden Fisk looking like he was going to be a difference maker. If you remember, we were already, because in spring he wasn't allowed to go live. He wore the green jersey. You could see the body type. You could see the quickness. You could see that he was getting himself in shape, but they would not let him go live. The fall camp was the first we got to see that, and we thought, oh, okay, all right. This may end up being a little bit better than you would have thought getting a kid from Western Michigan. Grady Kelly's not going to be Braden Fisk, okay? I don't want anybody to get this idea. That's not where I'm going. Grady Kelly has zero chance to be Braden Fisk. Braden Fisk was probably a shock to a lot of people. Although that said, Notre Dame thought they had him, desperately wanted him. Everybody wanted that kid coming out of Western Michigan. They knew what he was transitioning into.
Yeah, he was, interestingly enough, I remember in the spring we said, man, if he is half the football player that he is an athlete, he's going to be awesome, because you could see in spring the athleticism. It was off the charts. Mm-hmm. That doesn't always mean, like, we've had a lot of dudes come through here that have been tremendous athletes that weren't good football players, and you just don't know when he's in a green jersey. To me, when Braden emerged, actually wasn't in those one-on-one drills. It was in the 11-on-11. He consistently destroyed the interior of the pocket, and he consistently created all kinds of havoc plays because he just beat a double team, or he just beat a guy one-on-one, one of your starting guards at the time. And that's why, frankly, he was one of the reasons I thought pass protection was going to be a problem for our offensive line.
Yeah, because he was kicking their ass. Yeah.
He was kicking their ass consistently. Yeah.
Well, so just make sure everybody understands, Grady Kelly's not going to be that. But Grady Kelly has already taken a jump from spring to fall camp. He had, I'll be honest with you, I thought he had a lot of bad weight on him when he got here. And, you describe sometimes guys' body types as, hey, he weighs 310, but he's got a lot of bad weight on him. Or, man, he's 310 and he doesn't have any bad weight. Like, that's how you describe these guys. And I thought, look, he had a lot of bad weight on him when he came in. Seems to me he looks much better, much better. He's gotten it together. He's had the ability to acclimate. Obviously, they've put him through the paces and gotten him in good shape. Storms does a great job with these guys. He looks the part as a guy that's going to be able to contribute for you and give some guys some rests without there being a massive drop-off. I don't think he's the playmaker Fisk is. Well, I know he's not. But is he serviceable? And really, a lot of guys over the course of a game only need to be slightly better than serviceable if they're third or fourth in rotation. And, I don't think this team takes a massive step back when he comes into the game. It's not like green light to run the ball on Florida State when he comes in. And he's a big, big dude with a big base, and he looks to be in better shape.
I can say this. I see Tom, Buffalo Tom, thanks for the contribution. He's asking about Marvin Jones Jr. and Optimus Climb. The same thing. I guess MJJ is on the mind since you're talking defensive line. I haven't been there yet to practice, but what I can say to Optimus' question, do you think he set it and forget it? Based upon what I saw in spring, yeah, I do. And based upon the coaching staff telling the TV crew that his rise to prominence was quicker than Verse and Jermaine Johnson, yeah. Even the couple of days I got there in spring. Now, you could talk about refinement or not, but what I saw in spring was somebody who was extremely explosive. And so for me, I can't wait to see what happens when I get down there and I look at that defensive end rotation, but I believe him to be a set and forget a guy, and that's sight unseen for the fall.
I thought he was coming out of spring for sure, and I think that when we get the full pads on, I'll get a better sense of it. There's nothing to talk about right now with a lot of the offensive and defensive linemen in terms of whether or not we think that they have firmly established as a set it and forget it. I mean, there's a couple people because you've seen them in games that come back. You know what Josh Farmer is. You think you know what Darrell Jackson is. I mean, certainly nobody should look like that and not be an impact player. I mean, he's blessed with an unbelievable physique and he's in great shape. But any of these guys right now, we can't really talk about until we get them in full pads, which I believe is tomorrow. And it's funny because I said before, that first day, you get those little morsels of an amazingly prepared meal, right? You just get a little taste here. Dad gives you a little sliver off the grill. Taste that, son. Taste that. Tell me what you think. Yeah, now go get your mother and tell her I need that big blue plate. It's on the third shelf from the top there. That I need the big blue plate. Last time you brought me the tan one, I need the big blue one. Anyhow, it happens. We get that way. And then you're salivating, waiting to see this. And you just go back and it's a non-pad practice. And you're like, damn it, man. And then you're like, all right, maybe tomorrow. Then you get still not. It's just tough. I know I go from first two practices giddy to, all right, let's get with the getting. Can we get some full pads out here? Let's see the men be men. Let's go. Everybody's fast when they're wearing shorts, T-shirts. Let's go. Let's see what happens after somebody gets their ribs caved in. Let's go. And that's where my head's at now. I'm kind of like, all right, nice throw, nice catch, good route. It's kind of how the day goes. You don't get a lot more than that right now until those pads come on.
A defensive lineman that's playing offense this year as a freshman. Amari Williams seems to be, around the staff. People are saying, man, he's doing some impressive things. It was interested, obviously, to see where the room goes. Jackson West is a key as an inline guy. You've already been talking about how Morlock has just flipped a switch. He's gone from nice player to, oh, no, that's going to work kind of a player. Is there a battle out there for backup tight end reps? I mean, I don't want to put too much on a freshman too early. Obviously, Landon Thomas is more of an H-back than an inline guy. Is there a battle there?
Yeah, I think there is, and they've got another kid that they're moving their tight end that they feel good about. It's a freshman. I don't want to put that on him either.
It's Amari. Well. Yeah, it's Amari Williams.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, you said Amari Williams. Yeah. So Amari Williams he's quickly becoming a factor in the room, to where you're like, okay,
all right,
I see you 45.
It almost feels like a Jimbo position change. Like Jimbo was excellent at that early in his career. Xavier Rhodes, I think, is the best one. Now they've got others that are excellent, but the Xavier Rhodes one from receiver to defensive back was, what a call that was. Made that kid a lot of money.
Yeah, and he did so. Xavier went begrudgingly.
Yes.
If you recall, he did not want to do it, and then he was like, "Look, man, I'm going to make you a lot of money," and he did. He did make him a lot of money. And with Jimbo, it was always about assessing a guy's feet. His footwork was a lot of that, and then certain other attributes depending on the position. He'd say, well, there are aspects of what he does that would easily translate. Thinking about making that switch with him, they may have something there. I think too, there's been enough early on that you get excited about. Probably, I would say 6 or 7 freshmen in total on the team right now, that you wouldn't be surprised if midway through the season they started to get into games and have some opportunities. I'm not saying out the gates. I'm not saying right away. That's a lot to put on a freshman. I don't like to prognosticate that a true freshman is going to be out there for game one across the pond, in a game like that. I don't know. They have enough starting talent that they probably wouldn't have to put that kind of pressure on somebody. But I like that there are a lot of freshmen that catch your eye at practice every day on both sides of the ball. I mean that on both sides of the ball. I'm not just talking about offense. There's a lot of kind of looking around like, oh, that kid's a true freshman, isn't he? Okay. You see, that happens quite a bit. I think last week, Tom, we were talking about Ricky Knight.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, he fits that mold, like right off the bat. You're like, okay. Now think about how deep that room is for you to notice a freshman.
Yes, because there are other freshmen who were here in the spring that were really impressive. I mean, like I look at Kai Bates, him, Quindarius, KJ Kirkland, Charles Lester. You could go on down the list, and like the body types that they have are modern. That's the best way I can put it. Is it just seems like in the last couple of years, maybe there was a change that was made around that time, but it seems like to me in the last couple of years, the type of athlete that has come in to play defensive back is jumped up a notch. It's just an upgrade across the board. And I find that interesting that if Ricky Knight is, at least making noise in that room.
I mean, there are moments where you see him and you go, oh, that kid's got a little something to him. Yeah.
Because last year, Quindarius, I've always been very impressed with how smooth he is. Made some plays. Edwin Joseph was awesome until he got banged up last year, and that was at slot corner. Conrad Hussey, I didn't even bring his name up. He's in the mix. I mean, and you've got a new wave of really highly regarded players. So if this guy, it's almost like LaWayne McCoy being impressive. It's the same thing. Like, I've been waiting for Elijah Moore stuff, but LaWayne McCoy is just like, well, the hell with your Elijah Moore. I'm going to take some reps.
LaWayne McCoy is an impressive player. Elijah had a good day today, Tom. So there's been, I think with any of these freshmen, you can't expect them to string together day after day after day after day of impressive performance to where it, you move your head. You're surprised by something you see. But I do think you expect freshmen to flash. If they've got a little something to them, you expect those guys, or if they're going to garner any playing time. I got the hiccups all of a sudden, guys. We're going to need this break in a second. But if you have that, you got to expect that they'll flash here and there. And there have been a lot of guys. That's the best way to describe it, actually, is to say that, you know what? There are a number of guys that any given day will catch your eye, grab your attention, have you kind of turn your head and double check the roster numbers. And, oh, yeah, that's the freshman out of such and such. Oh, yeah. I don't think he'll play much this year, but he's been impressive 2 days in a row. Oh, yeah, there's so-and-so. That is commonly heard out there right now. Commonly heard, which is very, very cool. Hour number 2, forthcoming. Stay with us. Jeff Cameron Show 93.3, Real Talk Radio and Warchant TV.
Rick Stockstill, former Knoll, former Middle Tennessee State head football coach. Dustin Hill. Bunch of QBs. Q's on 3, Q's on me. 1, 2, 3.
left. Your hands, come out of your hip. Go. Hey, right, hips and hands. Go, get down. Get down. Right, hips and hands. You don't get it. Now turn that, look at your stand. That's where it's going. Your knee should be in. Now come out. Hey, come out. Boom, right there. Get your hands up. Get back. Get down. Go. That's right. Hey, boom, right there. Get back to him. But now, when you hit the hands, pull your feet. All right. Okay, come on. All right, strike, guys. Hit the hand. Hit the hand, feet. Hey! That's not snatch. You ain't snatching hard enough there, Josh. Be violent on your snatch. Snatch! One more. Let's go. Come on, come out of here. Hit the hand. Snatch! No, that's an ugly ass hand, Dan. Be violent! Be violent! Set! Go again! Hip and feet! Be violent! Be violent in your hip and your hands and feet fall! Set!
Appointment, purchase or renew your service agreement, or pay your bill from your mobile device. Any day, anytime, anywhere. When you turn to the experts at Carrier and Marino Heating and Air. Online at marinoac.com.
Florida license number CAC 1816186.
Marino Heating and Air Conditioning.
Feeling hungry but don't want to leave the house? Download the Foodies Takeout and Delivery app and earn points and rewards on every order while supporting local at the same time. Other food deliveries like DoorDash and Uber Eats are taking upwards of 20 to 30% directly out of our local restaurants' pockets, while Foodies does not. Keep money local and support your favorite local restaurants such as El Jalisco, Gordo's, Jerry's, Smitty's Tap House, and many more. Download the free app today and start earning your rewards instantly. Just search for Foodies Takeout and Delivery in any app store or order online at foodiestakeout.com.
Science-backed, technology-tracked, and coach-led. Hey, Jeff Cameron here. You've heard me rave about the benefits of Orange Theory Fitness and the proven track record of science-backed interval training. Well, now Orange Theory Fitness has done it again, adding more ways for you to improve your health and look your best. In addition to the always great standard workouts, OTF has added Tread 50 and Strength 50 for those in the mood to just lift for an afternoon or attack those cardio goals for the day. Take the guesswork out of exercise. Make sure you're getting the most out of each and every workout. Orange Theory Fitness, location Midtown Tallahassee and Village Square Boulevard.
Broadcasting live from Florida's capital city, this is the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness on Real Talk 93.3. Now, stop what you're doing and listen closely. It's time for the Jeff Cameron Show in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I said, I'm Jeff. That is Tom over there. You're listening to us, and that is greatly appreciated. Don't forget, tonight, 7 o'clock, The Smash. I'll be on that with Ira. Looking forward to joining you guys then as well. Throw some questions our way. We'll be happy to get to them as well, looking to catch up with Ira. Even though I saw Ira today, I feel like we haven't spoken in a while. This could be a nice opportunity to get caught back up.
You'll be able to speak to him in 25 minutes too, as well. So
that is true. That won't be the time to catch up. That'll be a time to just talk about football. Yeah, we had one conversation today. It was about baseball, about Major League Baseball, and I'm sure you saw, Tom, over the weekend, the 472-foot blast from O'Neal Cruz.
I did. It's amazing how Aaron Judge is the only one that gets highlights when it's 450 plus. But I found the O'Neal Cruz clip.
That's a monster. That thing is crazy. That whip is nuts. Anyhow, we salvaged one game of the series against Arizona, who's, by the way, a bad matchup for us because they hit left-handed pitching really, really well. But it's Skeens Day, everybody. I know you're pumped. Come on board. It's Skeens Day. We'll be grilling out in the Cameron household tonight for Skeens Day, and I'll have the game on in the background while I'm doing the smash, which means I already got to carry the day, buddy. Gonna have to carry the day. I'm sure I'll be like leaning and peering and doing. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? On Twitter, it's at Jay Cameron Show, and thanks to those of you who are also watching on Warchant TV. Don't forget to subscribe to Warchant.com. Man, why would you not? With all that's going on right now, and the low price of $1 for 2 months or whatever it is. Good Lord, it's an ideal thing.
Promo code FSU and the number 1. FSU1 promo code $1 2 months. That's going to get you through a whole lot of news. And I think it's going to be a lot of good news, it sounds like, judging by y'all's reactions to what you're seeing in practice.
Yeah, I jokingly said last hour that after that first day or two, I'm just antsy for them to get into pads. I say that, and then they get into pads, which I think, again, starts tomorrow, get into full pads. And then all I do is hold my breath that nobody gets hurt. That's like, I want the pads to come on. Great, the pads are on. Now we're hitting. Now it's go. And I'm like, oh, nobody get hurt. Nobody, everybody keep it together here. Yeah, it's tough. It will be very interesting. Mike has done a good job over the last several years. He's talked about this. He's talked about it again this camp. Just so you guys know, and you'll need to know this. If we don't talk about somebody, there's a reason. Now, the reason could be that they're not doing anything that impresses us, and they're not making plays, and they're not showing up on anybody's radar, and so we're just ignoring them. Or they may not be out there. They may not be able to practice. And I've told you all the rules that Mike has laid down. If it's like a minor injury and they're just being cautious, maybe a guy misses a day or two and you don't hear about him. If you ask me a question in the chat about a player and I don't respond to it, or I don't answer it, or I'm ambiguous, you could just kind of assume most of the time it's like, look, man, that's not really something I can talk about right now. We'll wait till that person's out there making plays, and then we'll talk about it. It doesn't mean they're devastated. It doesn't mean that they're not going to play. Just maybe means they missed that Monday or that Tuesday or that Wednesday or whatever it is. You know what I mean? I just want to refresh everybody on this. But here's the second part to that. Okay, so there's one purpose there, just to remind you, guys miss days of practice. It happens. You ding yourself on a Monday. Maybe they give you Tuesday off and you're back Wednesday. It happens all the time. The other thing is, with the veteran players, with a lot of guys that have played a lot of football or have established themselves, Mike is very forward thinking with this. Some people might take issue with it. I think old school football guys don't like it, but I also understand it. Mike will give some of his veteran players, depending on the day off. Mike will give certain players who they already know what they have, who've played a ton of football. You'll hear him say things like, we know what we have with so-and-so. We know what we have with him. He's played a lot of football for us. We know, well, what he's telling you is that there are going to be days that they dial it back for those players, that they already know that they can play. They've already played a ton of games, started a ton of games. They've been a productive player. They're not going to beat them to hell in camp. Whereas some other guys that are competing for spots and haven't proven themselves, they don't get that luxury. I think that's true of most coaching approaches these days. But Mike is pretty honest about it. And there are code phrases and words that he'll use. We've seen him. They've played a lot of football for us. We know what we have, ... Those are the things that he's saying there without getting into any specific about a player or one player.
Well, I don't think that's talking out of school either, because, last week we ran the clip of him with the offensive line. And he was talking about, we know what we have in Darius and Maurice, Jeremiah. They played a ton of football. And Lucas and Jalen need those reps. I mean, yeah, you can. That speaks for itself. And what we noted last week was that he mentioned Lucas that early, which is the first time in a long time that Mike Norvell has talked about Lucas Simmons. But that's straying from the point. The point being, Dylan Gibbons didn't run a lot. He ran the reps necessary, and it wasn't because the kid was lazy. It was because they had a plan for him, and that's what he'll say. We have a plan for this player, that player, the other player.
Thorne wants to know how Deuce Spann is coming along, and Deuce has been at every practice, has participated in every practice, is getting a lot of looks. I think this is a pivotal year for a lot of these receivers. I think Kentron Portier, Deuce Spann, Darion Williamson. These are guys that we don't know what we're going to get. They're guys that, some more than others, but have all shown flashes. I mean, think about a guy like Darion Williamson, for example. There's a guy, like, I don't know how many of us are counting on him to do anything, but remember that snapshot against Boston College? That moment where all of a sudden you look up and dude had 5 catches for like a hundo and was like looking like a professional receiver. And it was grand opening, grand closing. And it's gone. We were so frustrated because you saw it, right? I feel like that moment or those kinds of moments have occurred for a lot of guys that we just don't know that you're going to be able to count on them to produce that consistently or at all this year. At the same time, we don't know that you can't. We don't know that they won't. So therein lies the intrigue every day we go out there. Has Deuce Spann had some good moments out there? He has. Has he had some bad moments out there? He has. This seems to be who he is at this point, right? This is who a lot of those guys are. You know, you see a moment from a Portier and you go, there it is. And then, you know, feels like maybe you don't see that for a while and you're like, I wonder what's going on there. And then you see it. Darion, same thing. There are others. I'm only using them as examples because they seem to fall into that same umbrella. You know, somebody asked earlier, they wanted a daily update on Hakeem. Great play from Hakeem Williams earlier today. I think he would have scored on this particular play. That's all I'll say. And you know, that has to be something I'm sure Norvell, don't want to put words in his mouth, but given the way I hear him talk about players and the way that I watch him interact with players, what he would tell you is consistency. I just need more consistency from a lot of these guys. And so it's not like it's, you know, where you get nervous is when they never do anything and you're like, man, I just never seen it. That's not the case. With a lot of these guys, you've seen it. You've gotten a snapshot. You've seen a glimpse. You've seen a moment. You've seen a day or two in a row and then kind of falls off. So I think he would just preach, let's get consistent this camp. Let's get to where I can trust you, where by the time we're building up to that final week and install and doing all the things that we're doing, I can trust that you're going to do what I expect you to do. And they're working on him hard with that. And I think that that's true of a lot of guys. Who will win out? Who will win those reps? This is the competition that you want. You want talented players fighting for reps, and you want that to be an intense battle. I think it is at wide receiver because I think you infuse in that discussion a couple of true freshmen. You infuse in that discussion who's getting the football. How about your 6'7" tight end? So you know, there are lots of ways to talk about the passing game without me giving away details to strategy or anything like that. I just think that they're figuring out who they are. What's their identity?
Well, you want to have solutions, you know, carved out. Ideally, you want to know that you have in Johnny and Keon and Jaheim, and you know that those are the guys that you can lean on. That's the perfect world. But one of the cool things about a situation like this for the receiver room, certainly for the running back room, is it's week to week. The competition never ends. Like, there is an end point of camp and the beginning of practice week for Georgia Tech, and that's approaching pretty soon, which is wild to think as we enter week 2 of fall camp. But you know, you could perform well in the Georgia Tech game, and if you're lackluster against Boston College in the first half of Memphis, there's a guy waiting to take your job.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
It's a relentless competition, which is great. That should make this team, it's a cliche, but it really should make this team better in November than it is at the start of the season because it would rage on. The battle would rage on. And Mike has not been afraid in games to make some changes. You've seen it at running back. I mean, hell, Trey Benson, the second half of 2 years ago, absolutely took that job. Like, Trayshawn Ward got banged up on that weeknight game, but then Trey Benson took the job and it was his. Until the Oklahoma game when he struggled in several drives and they said, Trayshawn, get in there. And Trayshawn Ward saved Florida State.
That's right.
Yeah. So they're not afraid. They're not afraid to make those changes. And I think that's where you have to be looking over your shoulder for the entirety of the season. If you're not an established star, like Kyle Morlock's rules are a little different. Malik Benson's rules are a little different. Outside of that on offense, man, there's no settled job. Darius Washington on the line, but I'm talking skill positions. Nobody's job is set in stone.
They have so many different skill sets at running back They have fewer skill sets that are defined and firmly established at wide receiver, to your point, but there are a lot of options and a lot of guys fighting for those reps. And that's a really good thing. I think they're a little bit deeper at tight end than we thought they were going to be, at least from a pass catching standpoint, Tom. I think from a pass catching standpoint, they are, which is exciting. And again, I can't wait to see the running back room. So many guys. It was a good day to get Yak because he's got to be giddy. It's a good problem to have when you have so many good players in the same room with different skill sets where you're like, I think we've said it before. A lot of people on these boards have brought it up, whether it's the Heisman Legal Law Firm chat room or if it's on our message boards on Warchant. A lot of people, I think, are correctly guessing that this is going to be a great year for one specific running back in a room full of talented running backs. And that the one specificity that I would look to is Lawrence Toafili. And I think that's correct. I think he's going to be a guy that has a very big year. He's been a great leader. His attitude's infectious. He's put on the requisite weight that's necessary. He's got a really cool skill set in that you can line him up in so many different places. He can catch the football. He's elusive. He's got breakaway speed. He's also tough enough between the tackles to garner a lot more looks in any given game. So I think he's the one consistent guy that you'll look to on offense week in and week out.
So you can break it to me. I'm strong. I can handle bad news. Keziah Holmes, how's his camp been?
Good.
That's my camp.
He had a great day. I think it was 3 or 4, like the third practice. I think it was like the third practice. He had a great day. In fact, he was singled out as having a great day. I think Mike said something. And I remember thinking, oh, good for him. And it was brought up at practice. Many members of the staff said, that's Tom's guy. And
that's right.
Yeah, that is your guy.
He can do
they
it.
Got a lot of guys to root for.
They do. I just for my top 40 list, I was betting on him because of the spring. Sometimes spring is a mirage, and I get that. But Keziah I think he's one of the more well-rounded, and not the most well-rounded back that they have in that room, and that's saying something. He doesn't have the skills, pass catching like Toafili does, and he doesn't have the speed that Jalen Lucas does. But my man will pass pro. He will lead block, and he also can break away and he can run you over. I love the completeness of his game, but that was spring. I don't have an image of fall camp, so I'm glad to hear that there's some good news there.
I'll tell you what, and I'll speak about this in vague terms because I don't want to get in trouble. But if you're in a deep running back room, and this is as deep as I can remember it being, okay, all of these guys, I'm talking about Sam Singleton, I'm talking about Keziah Holmes, I'm talking about Toafili, Cam Davis, you name it, all of them. If you're in a room like that and you all possess something different and you all have a thing that makes you unique, the thing that's going to guarantee you get more reps is if you can pass block. You have to be able to pass pro. I don't care if you look like a Greek god and you are, have the body type to come in and play right away. If you can't block or you're inconsistent, you're going to have to wait until you can. You're going to have to wait until you can. And because there's enough guys that do have the capability. It has been at various points something that they are hell-bent on getting right. That's all I'll put it. They are hell-bent on getting that right. And so you can imagine, if you're trying to picture what we're watching in practice, well, you can imagine that there are certain types of drills that are not for the faint of heart. Any kind of pass pro drill where a linebacker is set free to come in and you got to step up in there, bring your lunch pail, and make sure you give a quarterback time to throw, that is a tough drill that requires not just a physical toughness, a mental toughness, but also technique. You've got to be really good at how you go about protection. And I think that will be the one thing that really probably differentiates who gets more of the carries than not.
I'm glad to hear that that's been an important drill because it's been lost in the shuffle. I don't know that I can specifically lay out the geography of a practice, but let's just say that when Florida State is doing some things with quarterbacks and receivers and defensive backs, and then the trenches are on the other side, like quite literally, you will have almost like the middle of the field, linebackers versus. And in the last few years, most of the time, Florida State's top running backs were in non-contact jerseys. So, you wouldn't learn a whole lot about either the linebackers or the running backs. And frankly, you didn't have a whole lot of linebacker depth. So that drill for that period, you didn't really need to keep your eyes on. But it sounds like it's something worth watching now with the way
awesome.
the roster is built.
I love watching it because you're going to separate the men from the boys there. I mean, that's a tough deal. That's not an easy thing to have to rep. And, I like it too. I like that they're doing that as well. Somebody I haven't spoken about, and I'm going to speak to Ira Chaffel here in a minute. He'll join us in just a moment. I'll bring it up to him because a couple of you did ask this question, and I think it'll be fair for us to talk about it. And that's Cam Riley. People were asking me about Cam Riley. I have not touched on that just yet. We will in a second. I do want to take a quick second before we go to this break to welcome a new advertiser with us. You see him in the corner there on the screen. It's Dexafit. When I was told about Dexafit, I couldn't wait to make the appointment because it will teach you something about yourself. You can already have a workout regimen, whatever it is you like to do. You can still do that. This is not separate from that. This is separate from that, I should say. But you go in there and you find out some eye-opening information about your body composition, your bone density, your cardiovascular health, your metabolic well-being, all these things, right? And you find this out, but it's not in a vacuum. They're like, hey, yeah, here's the good, here's the bad, and here's everything in between about your body, and here's how to fix the stuff that's wrong. Pretty cool. Like, incorporate these things into your already existing workout plan, if you will, or add them to whatever, like for me, if I go to Orange Theory, right, add this to what you already do. And come back and see us in 40 days, 60 days, whatever it is, and we'll tell you what kind of progress you made. It's really, really, really cool. And you'll hear these Dexafit ads on this station and on this show moving forward. But I just wanted to take the time and thank them for joining us here and collaborating with us on the Jeff Cameron Show. And you can look it up online, wherever you look up anything online, and you'll see what I'm talking about. There's one right here in Tallahassee over by Bumpus. Really, really cool. Jeff Cameron Show 93.3, Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Look at that. Day one already on the seams, y'all. Already on the laces.
Back behind the goddamn shoes. Are we clear? I'm that lazy you're already sorry. So why not do a little I ain't sorry, you know? John back.
Fitness location, Midtown Tallahassee and Village Square Boulevard.
This is Brian Kilmeade, and I'm excited to be on the air in the capital city. Be sure to tune into my show. I'll be giving you all the latest news, information, and the truth you demand. The Brian Kilmeade Show is live from 9 till noon, right here on Real Talk 93.3.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Let's do it up. Feels like it's been too long. Let's bring my man in, Irashfel, Warchant.com, who, by the way, will be I will be joining him this evening for tonight's Monday Smash. Looking forward to that as well. Ira, you there, baby?
I am, man. It's a little pre-smash. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. Pre-smash. Busy time, good time. Practice, we were both there today. And what stands out to you so far in this early start to fall camp? Anybody, anything that you want to point to that you think has been kind of something that caught your eye?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different things, but I think one big thing, and it's kind of weird to say because they're still not in full pads, but I really like the running game. I like this new look offensive line. Every day of practice, I'm impressed by whether it's Keziah Holmes or Toafili or Roydell Williams or Makai Danzy, the freshman, or Cam, and just every single guy in that running back room seems to make plays, and so much of it starts up front, obviously. And I just like with that offensive line. You have some faces that we've seen for 5-6 years now, Maurice Smith and Robert Scott and Darius Washington. But then I think those additions that they brought in, Richie Leonard and TJ Ferguson, have been a big addition. And then you also, Keandre Jones, his second year now from Auburn. You just have a lot of different guys in the offensive line that are big, strong dudes, and you just see the running game really just kind of, having its way sometimes with that defensive front.
Do you think, Ira, because Tom and I were talking about this earlier in the show, and by the way, that I share your sentiments there. I think that's where I would have started as well. I've been excited about that. First of all, I love the running game. I always want a team that can be tough because that, as we both know, that travels. If you can run the ball, you can take that on the road in the cold, in the rain, whatever it might be. Also, it speaks to a mentality, and I feel like that's been a point of emphasis with them. Like they're clearly trying, don't you think, to establish a mentality of toughness?
Yeah, no question. And I think when you're going up against that defensive front, you better. Josh Farmer and Daryl Jackson and Sione Lolohea and Patrick Payton and Marvin Jones. They got a bunch of dudes on that defensive line. And I think if you didn't, the plays where it doesn't work well on the offensive line, they get exposed. Those guys are in the backfield pretty quickly. But when it works, and there were a couple of runs today where you could just see the offensive linemen get so excited after the play because they knew they executed it really well. They hit it exactly the way they wanted to. The backs found the crease, and they were off to the races. And so those are great battles. I think the full pads should be tomorrow, and so we'll see it take another step up. But yeah, no, the physicality's been really there, and then also just the size. David Johnson, running backs coach, talked about today. I almost want to go back. I think I might go back and look for a picture of the offensive line a year ago and look at it now, because the returning guys have gotten bigger and stronger. And then you brought in some of these just men from the SEC. I think that group's going to look different just coming off the bus.
It's so fun to describe this offensive line in the same manner that I used to every time we saw Alabama. Famously, I would joke and say, man, whatever they're doing at the Alabama table, we need to adopt. The Bama table was a very real thing for a very long time. And I think you're right, Ira. I think you look at the very least 5 or 6 of these guys, bare minimum, are guys that if you saw them at Alabama, you go, yeah, that seems about right. Like they got some serious girth on this offensive line going into the season.
They do. And then also, it's good to see them moving, even some of the backups, obviously Julian Armella is a guy that has been on campus now for 3 years, and people are waiting to see him kind of emerge. And I don't know how much he's going to play. I don't know if he breaks into that top 7 or 8 of that rotation, but I was watching him pulling on a play today, and he can move for a big guy. They just have a combination of that size, but also some athletic ability. And I think you're also starting to see them really get a feel for that offense, like what is expected of them on every play and how to operate as a unit. It's been fun to watch. Again, there's still 3 or 4 weeks of camp. I think the passing game is going to have some big days too. But right now, you feel like they can lean on that running game.
I said earlier today, I thought DJ had a really good practice today, and I've been impressed with him. And I was just the overall view is that he's so mature and he's very professional in the way that he operates. What are your observations of DJ so far?
Yeah, no, I like him a lot too, and it's it's not necessarily, when we look at this offense, what we see on Saturdays in the fall. I think we've talked so much about how, you have this power running game and he's going to take these shots down the field. And I think that's going to come. But right now, I think he's done a really good job of hitting the underneath stuff, trying to put touch on different passes. And that's still a work in progress in terms of, you can still see some of these receivers that are working in some of the tight ends, getting all on the same page. That's going to be a little bit more hit or miss. You're going to see some days where it's crisper and some days where it's not as crisp when they're installing things and guys are still flushing things out. But in terms of his development, yeah, man, he looks very comfortable there. He looks very comfortable with the offense. You don't see, there was a pass today where I wondered if it was the receiver or if it was him. And as soon as the pass, he pointed to himself to let the receiver know, I was off on that one. So it's not like he's been perfect, but even when he makes a mistake, it seems like he knows what the mistake was. In the spring, sometimes he was still learning. I think now you feel like he's got a pretty strong command of the offense.
Yeah, I think that's a good observation, Ira. You're right, because he instantly knows now. You're right. He was trying to figure it all out in the spring. That's why I thought it was hard to gauge him in the spring, just because he was learning a brand new offense, one of many that he's had to learn. Now he seems a lot more confident in his ability to kind of read it right. I also like his interactions with Mike. It's very it's almost like you would see an NFL coach who's had the same quarterback for several years.
Yeah. No, I know what you're saying. I think I'm with him, and also there's a couple other positions too. I think these transfers they brought in. It's interesting the fact that I put him, Roydell Williams, Malik Benson, kind of all in that same boat because they played so much football. And it's almost like you didn't just bring in 3 high-profile transfers that should help you in terms of putting up numbers on the scoreboard, but they're also like 3 grown men who you're right, they act like pros. And I think that's a great point with DJ, but I think there's a few of those guys on this team that we probably didn't know when they signed him out of the portal how important that was going to be. But I think Roydell Williams has already established himself as a leader on this football team, and Malik Benson also has as well.
Any areas of maybe we just don't know? I won't even classify it as concern right now because they're not even in full pads yet, which we think starts tomorrow. But anything where you're like, I'm going to need to see this get going or get better, anything like that?
One thing I think I want to see more of is I've been real impressed by Cam Riley, at linebacker, transfer from Auburn. But, one thing we know for sure, he's not afraid to trigger downhill. He's gonna come up. He's gonna try to hit people, and he's obviously got great athletic ability for that size. What we don't know is how does he play through the course of a game. In terms of not biting on play action, not trying to make a big play and giving up a bigger play. Those kinds of things we still have to see over the next couple of weeks, especially as they do more scrimmage situations. But I think he's impressive. I think also on that same line, I think some of these DBs like Earl Little. Devontae Brown at safety, who I think is going to be in the mix there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Those are guys we just need to see more of. Like, they certainly look the part. I think they can play. I just think we need to see more of them in scrimmage situations to see how they handle all the different things that come up during the course of the game.
Buddy, I look forward to joining you tonight at 7 o'clock. For those just tuning in, yet again, tonight, the Monday Smash at 7 on Warchant TV. It'll be old school with me and Ira. I'll talk to you then, brother. Always appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeff. See you, man.
Yep, take care. That's Ira Schafel, Warchant.com. Again, I'll join him tonight at 7. I do want to follow up on something there. I mentioned Cam Riley before we went to break, and then Ira just brought it up there. Tom, I've been impressed with Cam. I think he looks like a player, like we got a guy. And I do want to see him in certain coverage situations because he's a very big guy. But Ira's right. Anything to do with the running game, he comes up with the quickness, and he's got mean intentions, and he's a big guy, and he can do something about it. He's got a good feel, and he's a better athlete. Once again, you hear this a lot when we talk about big guys. It's a better athlete than you think he is when you look at him, because a lot of times big guys, you're like, all right, run stuff or whatever. But he's been sideline to sideline now, Tom. He's been able to run with these guys.
It's interesting to me. Yeah, that's the guy I asked you about last week in terms of agility, lateral speed, hashtag Matt Millar, if you will, because you need that, especially if DJ Lundy is going to be your other starter. DJ has, he's allowed to grow as well. And he was, I know he was much better than I thought he would be last year. So if he takes another step up, takes another jump up, he's got a specialized role. He's really good at stopping the run. He wants to try to be a 3-down back, but you need another backer that is a little bit different. Tatum Bethune and Kalen DeLoach were not built the same. They did not have the same skill set, and that was a good thing for Florida State. So that's one of the things where I'm trying to figure out in my mind's eye, because I have not seen it. How are they going to work? If DJ's on the field in 3rd and short, do you bring 2 backers out there? Is it Cam Riley and whom? Is it Justin Cryer? If it's 3rd and 7, is Cam Riley out there but no DJ Lundy? All of these little situations, you're just wondering about how they use guys. And I'm happy to hear that Cam Riley has the athleticism to go along with the frame, because you don't want 2 stocky run stuffing guys out there at any given moment. You feel like you can be exposed on play action or over the middle of the field.
It's weird when you look at him, Tom, and when you get down here to come to camp, which I know you're going to be doing shortly, and I look forward to seeing you, of course. I think you'll be surprised at his body makeup. For the listed weight, he's a lot longer and leaner than maybe you would have thought. So he's got obviously he's got big legs, and I always talk about this on the show, and people cringe, but it's football, baby. He's got that big ass that you need, but he's long and kind of leanish more than you would think for that weight. And that's what impressed me right off the bat, because when we first heard 245, I was like, I wonder what that's going to look like at linebacker, having to try to cover, and then when I saw him, I was like, oh, okay, he's a bit of an athlete here. This is not, he's more than a bit of an athlete. He's a good athlete. And so you go, okay, well now, no matter what he is, he can be involved in some way, like whether that be packages, whether that be certain types of looks that they want to give, because I do think he's just going to play a ton. I don't think that there's any chance that he gets buried. Like, I think he's going to play on special teams. I think he's going to play in games, whether it's a specialty role or a starter's role. I'm not so sure.
This is interesting to me. So it sounds like, just beneath the surface, maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, you're kind of excited about the linebacker rotation because of what Cam Riley brings. Now you have Justin Cryer, Blake Nicholson, everybody else in roles that are situational, rather than you would need Justin Cryer to step up and be one of your studs.
Yeah, you're correct. In that way, I'm excited. Now, I don't know that Justin Cryer or Blake Nicholson is going to be the bee's knees. I don't know that yet. This is a segment group that I think we're going to have to watch carefully and see who emerges and who's consistent and who they're excited about, because I think all those guys kind of take their turn, on a given day. But I don't know that I've seen anything where I've said, oh, he's the guy. This is the guy that is going to be starting, and everybody else, we're not real sure. Like, I think it's rotational. We'll see.
The question,
you don't have to say it. I was just contemplating my answer there, and I was thinking, Cryer, Nicholson, Riley.
How's Murphy been?
Still
thinking his way through. Yeah. Okay. The thing is, I think Riley would be a nice fit. This is going to be my follow-up after the pregnant pause, but Riley would be a potentially good fit as a pass rusher, but you just don't need that. Like, you've got enough there.
I think you do. I know old batted balls can get after the quarterback, and I agree with you. Marvin should take that leap and be the player that he was expected to be coming out of high school. This is when we do this, and I know we got to go to break, but when we do this, a lot of times this is what happens. You get to where you go, oh, I like him, and I think he can do this, and I like this guy, and I think he can do that, and this guy fits here perfectly well. But then when you say it out loud, you're like, well, none of those guys have done it in a game. None of those guys have shown me game to game that they can do it. They might be able to, and I have a sense that some of them will be able to, but they haven't done it. And that's the biggest difference between this year's team and last year's team when we came into camp. When we came into camp last year, like, we've watched all these dudes do these things.
Yeah, 100%. The one thing I would say about this group this year is it does seem, with the roster construction, doesn't mean proven. I'm not trying to say that.
Right.
But there are redundancies this year on the roster. If this guy doesn't do it well, we've got another option. Like, in a game last year, if we started, let's say, at Pitt, and it was the linebackers that were hurt, and you didn't have Bethune or Deloach, you're shaking in your boots. But if you're down one of those two guys this year, I feel like, given what the opponent wants to do, if they're run heavy, you've got a guy for that. If they're pass heavy, you've got a guy for that. Doesn't mean they're going to be great at it. Same thing at defensive end. Same thing at wide receiver. Same thing at running back. Same thing on the offensive line. There's a lot more redundancies there.
No, that's true. And that's why we've talked about perhaps this team is deeper than last year's team because of the options you're referring to. I think that's accurate. Chef Cameron Show 93.3, Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Your local news now.
Democratic candidate Megan Hovey has dropped out of the race for Florida's 2nd congressional district seat, prompting Democrats within the North Florida district to select a replacement. Hovey notified the Florida Division of Elections of her withdrawal from the race last week. Florida Democratic leaders will meet virtually tonight to select a candidate to face the winner of the GOP primary, which features incumbent Congressman Neil Dunn and challenger Rhonda Woodward. Hovey gave no reason for her decision to delay the race, but noted in her letter her decision was time to allow the Democratic Party time to find a replacement. One name that is being mentioned is Yen Bailey, a Tallahassee attorney and a member of the board of directors of the Friends of Leon County Public Library. Congressman Neil Dunn has served in the U.S. House of Representatives since 2016. Former President Donald Trump endorsed Dunn's candidacy on July 25th on Twitter. This is Rachel Lene with your Real Talk 93.3 Local News Update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MacklemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. Storms likely this afternoon. Otherwise, sunshine mixed with clouds at times. Daytime highs approaching 92. North winds around 5 miles per hour. Chance of thunderstorms tonight, 75. Thunderstorms likely tomorrow. High temperatures reach up to 94. A blend of clouds and sun. This report is brought to you by The Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Currently 87.
Did you know that the survivability of a metal roof far exceeds that of a traditional shingle roof? At Metal Roofing Sales of Tallahassee, we have new state-of-the-art roll formers that produce the highest quality Versa panel, PBR panel, and standing seam options. And we will guarantee to match or beat any local competitor's pricing. We're a family-owned business, ready to offer you the best sales and installation service in the area. And don't forget about our veterans and first responders discounts. Call Metal Roofing Sales today, 850-536-9123, or visit us online at metalroofing.sales.net.
There he is. Haven't seen this guy since, what was it? Oh, shoot. U2 at the Sphere in Las Vegas, baby.
Hey, how about that, man? Wasn't that fun?
Good show. Good show. Everything about it. Nearly perfect. Nearly perfect.
I had everything I could possibly want.
I wanted one thing, couldn't find it, and I looked everywhere. No Cubans.
What do you mean?
No Cubans.
There was Cubans.
No, I didn't see any Cubans.
Dude,
no.
I'm sure there was Cubans there. I mean, you know.
No. I walked around. There was a moment right before the show. I thought, got to find some Cubans. Nothing.
Dude, there's Cubans. There was Cubans. I'm sure there was Cubans.
In Las Vegas?
In Las Vegas.
No Cubans in Vegas.
There's Cubans in Vegas, man.
Eddie, there were no Cubans.
Chef.
The sandwich. There were no Cuban sandwiches. You're Cuban. Of course I know there were Cubans there.
Oh, the sandwich. Yeah, no, there probably wasn't many there in Vegas.
No Cubans.
No, not yet.
Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
The Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness. 2 Tallahassee locations, Midtown on Thomasville Road and Northside in the Village Common Shopping Center. Online at orangetheoryfitness.com.
All football all day today, huh? It was so easy to fall into it. It was, again, this is the good thing that can happen when you're going out to practice and you get to see these guys again and you watch a team develop and come together and we begin to figure out who they are. These kind of daily updates. I do think, obviously, we're all looking forward to the time where you have that and you have all the other information that's coming out with the NFL. You have all the stuff as we come down the stretch with baseball. And we get really, really busy. I will tell you, and I have not mentioned this yet, I don't think on the air, but it's looking like, and I'm lobbying for it, and I think it's going to have, well, I shouldn't say I'm lobbying for it. They've asked me for it, and I think we're going to do it. I think we're going to add the third hour back, guys. I think the Jeff Cameron Show is going to be 3 hours again instead of just the 2. I'll give you a more concrete date and time when that will get kickstarted. But we have been fortunate here. We've made it work after ESPN shut down. And I came on board kind of an unconventional set of circumstances here. And given what I talk about on a regular basis and given what else is talked about on this station, but it's worked out and you guys have followed. And we appreciate it. Our listenership continues to build, and the numbers are great, both on terrestrial radio here at 93.3, as well as with the pod and YouTube television, Warchant TV and the like. And I think we're going to go back to doing the 3 hours. We have a lot of people that want to jump on board with us, and we want to be able to accommodate that. I also want to have the ability to talk about things other than Florida State. That third hour will give me that opportunity. So, most of this, listen, the 2 hours, the 1 to 3 part of this will be primarily Florida State stuff. But I think when we add that third hour, we can get back to some of the diversity that we always talked about, where the show was able to dive into, whatever else we wanted to. Not that there won't be in that third hour some Florida State stuff. It's just that when you have the freedom and, you diversify a little bit, you can mix and match a little bit more over the course of 3 hours, and you don't have to feel so rushed or forced into just this little spot that we have now. Every day I turn off the mic now, I feel like, man, we could have done more here. I never got to this. I never got to that. And we know how busy things get in the fall. So between the station coming to me and me thinking about what I want to do with the show and with the demand from advertisers, we needed more room and more space all the way around. Creatively, philosophically, I feel like this is the best thing to do. And in addition to that, I think economically, obviously, we need to have more support from our advertisers. And we've had many of them approach us and say, I'd like to advertise, but you're all full. So, what gives? And I'm like, well, what gives is we'll do a third hour. Come on board. Jump on board. Let's make it happen. So here we go. The multimedia continues to grow. We'll still be doing this every day. Only it'll go from 1 to 4 instead of 1 to 3. And, of course, we'll have all the things that we always have, which is the pod and the YouTube and everything in between. So if you're not hearing the Jeff Cameron Show the way you'd like, that's on you. There's a million different ways to get the show, and it's only going to become more abundant. There you go. Sorry, Tom, I didn't tell you I was going to mention that before the show.
That's all right. I may have let that slip a little bit last week when I said there might be an outlet for more loosey-goosiness, and I feel like that hour has a chance to do that. But you're right. I mean, we did that for many years. You did that for a lot more years than I did. You did a 4th hour once upon a time.
I did 4 hours for the first few years of my career, and shoot me in the face. But yes,
yeah, we're gonna cap it at 3. I think that's good. That's good.
Yes, we will. Yeah. Yes, we will.
But we've done it before, and look forward to doing that again. That's gonna be a good time.
Yeah, you and me both. I think it's going to be a great time. And it'll also give you a chance to do some interviews and things like that, which I enjoy doing. I don't do a lot because we don't have enough space, and now we will. So, let's say I want to do an NFL interview, or I want to do something, somebody covering the Bucks or the Dolphins or the Jags or whatever. I can do that, and we'll have that in the show. We'll be able to do it. That's true of players and coaches alike. So yeah, I look forward to it. And many people across the board that do great coverage, I need an opportunity to bring them in. And I think this will give us that for certain. Yeah, man, 4 hours back in the day. That was a young man's game. That was a young man game. And you've heard some of those shows, Tom, from back in the day. I was in my 20s. And I see live spectators bringing it up, and he's right. I was very caffeinated.
Yeah, that's correct. There were times. So I got to know you very early on in 2009 when I started as an intern, and within a couple of days of having conversations with you, I understood that okay, things are going to be said here in this office. Real things.
Things are going to be said here is a nice description.
Yeah, that's fine. In this corner studio, things are going to be said. and they're going to be said full gusto. Understood. So then a few months go by in my internship, I'm trusted with more and more, and I start archiving your old shows. And even with the understanding that some things are going to be said in the corner studio, I was taken aback listening to those shows in the mornings. Oh my God. Listen to these guys go. These tapes are pretty aggressive.
Oh man. Yeah. And we always talk about of the era, of the time, and it's difficult whenever you're discussing a person of history, let's say. You have to understand the time in which they lived, right, and the time in which they worked, or whatever it might be. And it's always a tough task to do that, to find a fair way of describing a person or a show in this case, or whatever it might be. Like, you go back 25 years ago, and I'm like, ooh, that is, I don't know why I said that. I should not have said that. That doesn't seem. I don't believe that even anymore, and I don't know why I said that. Yeah,
that's correct. Even for me, and I've always been more careful. Always been more careful.
Yeah.
There were a couple of things that I think about that I said in, say, 2011 or 2012. I go, ooh, man, that is.
Well, that's it. That's really anybody. Times change, things change, norms change, and you kind of figure things out. And you're like, okay. And also, you get older and wiser, and you have more time to reflect.
A 23-year-old idiot's take, and that's very interesting.
And it's pretty funny because one of the things that happens as you get older is that you recognize, almost by definition, every 23-year-old is an idiot.
The thing is, even if you don't know that, I went through a phase in life around 28, 29 where Facebook would remind me how much of an idiot I was as a 23-year-old, because they'd say, hey, happy anniversary. This day 5 years ago, you said the following. And I said to myself every morning for about a year as I cleaned that feed, dear God, why did I say that?
Why did I say that? And more importantly, so why did I think it? Why did I say it? And why did I feel so aggressively the need to post it?
Well, that's called post-graduation loneliness, when your friends leave town and you're like, and all you got is work, and then you got the Mets, and they don't help you very much. So around 9:30 p.m., a lot of these posts, like 9:30 p.m. with some choice things that was said. Or around 3:30 p.m. during the Raheem Morris era of Buccaneers football. It's like 3:30. I'm sure that was a Sunday. Must have been a Sunday.
Tough day at the office for the Buccaroos.
How you say, with the pitching probables?
Blue Jays Orioles, Yanel Rodriguez, Zach Eflin. We got the Blue Jays Orioles game 2. Bowden Francis, Cade Povich. Yankees Phillies, Luis Gill, Zach Wheeler. We got Guardians Tigers, Tanner Bibby and Bo Brisky. What a matchup that is. Bibby and Brisky. Yeah. Twins Mets, Simeon Woods Richardson, Jose Quintana. Cubs Reds, Jamison Tyon, Carson Spires. Mariners Red Sox, better game. Logan Gilbert, Nick Pivetta. Rangers Cardinals, Nathan Eovaldi, Andre Palante. Braves Brewers. Come on, Braves, you need to beat the Brewers now. Keep it together. Grant Holmes, Colin Ray. Buccos Astros, and guess what the good news is, kids? Yeah, that's right. It's Paul Skeens Day. But, Tom, that's an 8:10 first pitch, buddy.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Paul Skeens Day. Jake Block goes for the Astros.
You know who's happy about that?
Me.
Ira. You don't have to worry about you, looking like you're going through some sort of sparring session, getting ready for some sort of heavyweight tilt while you're looking over at your...
I could just be straight on with it. Royals, White Sox, Alec Marsh, Chris Flexen. Nationals, D-backs, that's Mitchell Parker and Jordan Montgomery. And that, my friends, is a look at those that shall reside on the bump. There it is, just like that. That's fun. That is fun, and it'll be tonight at 7 o'clock. Mentioned it earlier. One more time for you. If you joined late, the smash tonight is me and Ira at 7. We'll be going over our practice observations, general conversation about the Noles and what we think so far. Giddy, I think both of us certainly are going to be. Look, man, I think there's reason to be excited about this football team, reason to be excited about the personnel that they have and the depth of talent of this team, but there's so much more to explore. So we're really in a pretty cool situation where we're just scratching the surface, and we don't have all the answers, and there are some real tough competition still to play out, which I like. Good work out of you, Tom. I'll talk to you later, my brother. And to all of you who called in or listen, as I used to say, I really appreciate it. Be good. See you tonight at 7. Peace.